The Bantu Truth and Details, Part 1. Michael Massa. We speak of what we know, and we testify to what we have seen. This work is raw and requires one to put emotions and biases aside as they read through it. Let's start with pointing out straight that the original population of the entire world was once black people. This is common knowledge that doesn't require rocket science. If you'd done your research, you'd know that before the invasion of the Caucasian race, every country around the world had a black indigenous population. You'd know about the Black Holocaust that took place all around the world, resulting in mass slaughter, mass slavery, and mass destruction of history. You'd know about the impersonating of the Caucasian race in every corner of the earth where they successfully wiped out the indigenous population. Therefore, the Caucasian cannot be trusted to tell us who we are or who he is in our story. Let's delve in this truth. The word Negro is simply a Spanish word for black. The word Moor, Morocco, Maurice, Mauritius, Mauritania, etc. comes from the Greek word mavro, which literally means black, blackened, or charred. The word Ethiopia or Ethiop comes from Greek, meaning burned face. Or black Ham or Kam or Kemet is also an ancient Egyptian word for black people, or land of the blacks. Kush also means black. Hebrew derives from Kikuyu, Bantu, word Kabiru, which means black people. This means the Zondervan Bible Dictionary, showing difference between Negro and black, either refer to the Negroes, Niger-Congo, and other Africans, Hamites, or just another way to belittle Africa and shove an entire continent into a single classification. Nevertheless, we can't afford to take their words for it. We have proved that Negro, black, Ethiop, Kemet, Kush, Hebrew, Zanj, Moor are all words used in medieval time to mean black people. This can also be backed up by the fact that all population of the earth were black. Now we have to use cultural references, linguistic facts, and the Bible to identify every bloodline with their heritage today. The word Bantu, which signifies community or nation or people, not just any people, it signifies a kindred, a bloodline. And from the word Bantu, we also have the word Bantu, and Ba is a prefix to denote pluralism, a multitude, therefore Bantu also signifying the people. Bantu or Abantu is a pure Bantu word for the people. Bayeth or Bayatu also translates to house of God, people of God, family of, and nation of God. Muntu means a person, they mu is singular prefix, a particular person of Bantu ancestry. In the word Muntu comes the word Mutu. Mutu, which signifies the head. In Bantu knowledge, this makes a Muntu or Bantu the head of people, head of nations, head of the world. In Deuteronomy 6:7, it says that the Bantu, the people, and his NTU are a chosen people, a holy people, and above all people. This clearly shows us that the covenant that our Creator made with our ancestors placed them above all people, the head of nations. Being Muntu, being you've been elevated above all people and all nations. This is also repeated by 1 Peter 1. Today, the word Bantu and Negro are often used by various people to cause divisions, to create confusion, and many times out of ignorance. In Africa, all black people are often referred to as Negroes by non-melanated species. All these terms were used by the stranger to identify the original population. All Bantu are Negroes blacks, but not all Negroid people are Bantu. But most of the time when people throw around the word Negro in Africa, it is usually referring to a typical Bantu, a Central to Sub-Saharan African individual. It's not secret that other Africans, including black Africans, often refer to a Muntu as Bantu or Negro, only as a sign of insult or degrading. Nilotes and Kushites use this words more often to look down upon someone or people from Bantu-speaking tribes. West Africa is often wrongfully marked. West African countries with highest Bantu population includes Cameroon, Equatorial Guinea, Gabon, Congo, DR Congo, and Angola. Interesting how modern West Africa is often referred to as the Negro and Bantu homeland at the same time, because Bantu, a Negroid, people themselves are said to have lived in that area and can easily blend in among other Negroes. Bantu were the main people taken into captivity both in the North and South America during both Arab and European enslavement of Africans. This is the original truth and what's mostly recorded in colonial archives. The recent study showing a surprising West African ancestry has happened through three means. First, because West Africa was inhabited by Bantu, who significantly intermingled with neighboring population, mainly the Igbo and Yoruba second. The fact that other non-Bantu West Africans are said to have already been in America prior to slavery and Columbus, through the expeditions of the great Mansa Musa and his brother Abu Bakr II, and last but not least, the fact that throughout the 1900s to today, non-Bantu West Africans were the predominant willing migrants to America and Europe. Long before even Bantu started willingly migrating to the West, many of them migrated in search for a better life and intermingled with Bantu slaves already there. This not to refute the fact that some non-Bantu West African people were also sold by their own kings. It is important to know that there are no records whatsoever of Bantu in the Americas prior to the transatlantic slavery. Africa has over 3,000 tribes, said to have the population of over 1.216 billion people, 2016, among which Bantu are the largest family in the continent of Africa. About 600 tribes making roughly 30% of the African population, about 350 million people. This without even including the scattered population. The largest Bantu population is found in the DR Congo, with over 200 Bantu tribes, accounting for almost half of all the Bantu tribes worldwide. This makes the Bantu the largest population of sub-Saharan Africa. Bantu are probably the only largely diverse, scattered, yet intertwined ethnicity in the entire world. Even without Western influences, it's almost impossible to separate Bantu languages and people as the linguistic and cultural similarities from one Bantu language to another, from one Bantu culture to another, are remarkably the same. Bantu are the same people regardless their colonial geographical location. Bantu languages, culture, and the people are the only largest and diverse population on Earth, scattered throughout the world, but with such unique sameness. We can't begin to elaborate the sameness between Bantu and the biblical Israelites, and how 600 tribes are one family, one culture, and one language distributed into dialects. Below is how we say my people in every Bantu languages in different African countries. Just look at the significant similarities. We are literally the same people. Lingala, Bato Nangai, Swahili, Watu Wangu, Zulu, Bantu Bakiti, Shona, Vanhuvangu, Xhosa, Bantubam, Kinyarwanda, Abantu Bwanje, Gikuyu, Andu Aqua, Nyanja, Antu Anga, Luganda, Abantu Banje, Sesotho, Bato Baka, Tswana, Bato Betsho, Sifuthi, Batfu Beketu, Lunda, Antu Chami, Kwaya, Abhanu Bhani, Setswana, Bato Barona, Bembe, Batubani, Sepedi, Bato Baka, Yei, Awatuwanga, Bahunde, Bandubani, Kamba, Andukode, Koda, same words meaning the same exact thing. Code or Coda both meaning moon and month in Kikongo and in Paleo-Hebrew. It also means the return of the lunar cycle, determining the monthly biblical calendar Siricide 43. 6. 8. Psalm 104:19, Genesis 1:16, something totally different from the Gregorian calendar, which the Romans imposed on us too today as per Daniel 7:25. Each descendant of Bantu knows who they are. Deep down they do. Growing up, we had our parents and grandparents telling us that we are children of the covenant. They used different words because some had no idea what they were saying. Others knew, but were worried about the colonizer finding out, or people not being willing to accept this fact. But the Bantu people know, because frankly, with or without religious influences, their lifestyle and culture is the basic Bible. I hope that everyone finds their place, that the non-Bantu original population to find themselves and the Bantu to awake and lead through Tatan Zambi, the Most High Yah, because the whole world is waiting for their awakening, the essayist Frantz Fanon said. That Africa is the shape of a pistol, and Congo is the trigger, the heart of Africa and the cradle of humanity. There's no debating whether Bantu are the 12 tribes of Israel scattered to the four corners of the world, because there's no a multitude of people so scattered yet carrying such significant and unique commonness as the Bantu. Their language is the actual Paleo-Hebrew. Their traditions are everything that's written in the Bible, a monotheistic people, their history of migration, slavery, and colonialism. No wonder Arab slavers referred to them as people of the book, and earlier European slavers would easily distinguish them from other Africans. You've read about the great 12 Bantu kingdoms, including the Kingdom of Congo, Kingdom of Zulu, Kingdom of Baluba, Kingdom of Lunda, Kingdom of Kuba, Kingdom of Mbundu, Kingdom of Buganda, Kingdom of Mutapa, Kingdom of Buturo, Kingdom of Mapungubwe, Indongo Kingdom and Kingdom of Zimbabwe, and other sub-branches about the history of Kimpavita, who in late 1600s claimed all Israelites were black Bantu people, and Yesaya, Messiah, was Bantu, about the first slave ship in 1619, carrying over 300 Bantu from Angola to Virginia, about the message of Leopold II, King of Belgium, to Christian missionaries sent to Congo, reminding them that these people's ancestors walked with Yah, about the Lembas Bantu Israelites, about the Angolan prison in Louisiana, America, about Simon Kimbang killed after 30 years in prison for claiming Israelites were Bantu black people, all the last slave that left southern Africa and closed the curses of Deuteronomy 28. Bantus are the only group of people in the world practicing circumcision not as religiously required but as their culture. Over 600 tribes, one people scattered across the world through slavery and other means, though divided by waters, colonial borders, and subdivisions, they are still the same people in both Americas, in Africa, in Europe, and Asia. This is the truth which was kept from them. Hod Eshech Makwa, Bemba, Abantu Bandi, etc. The word for month, moon, and female menstrual circle is the same exact word. Mwezi, including in Zulu, Kikuyu, Shona, Xhosa, Ndebele, Nyanja, Tswana, Kinyarwanda, Hutu, Bembe, Mashi, Havu, Nande, Lega, Fuliro, Bahunde, Nandi, Luya, Luba, Lunda, Bemba, Lemba, Luganda, and all the Bantu languages. Another fact of great importance, the word moon in the Kikongo Bantu language is code, Koda, Gauda. In Paleo-Hebrew, the word for moon is the Y chromosome haplogroup. E1B1A is said to be significantly predominant in sub-Saharan Africans. Mainly among the Bantu, it is indeed evident that not only the Bantu have this marker, but even tribes surrounding them. It is rather the original marker of the Niger-Congo family, aka the Shemitic bloodline. The Niger-Congo comprises of approximately 1,540 tribes, making more than half of the Africa population. E1B1B is said to be of descendants of Ham or the Hamitic marker, and the E1B1C is the genetic marker for the descendants of Japheth. The Y chromosome E1B1, being the ancestor of the three, is therefore the marker of our late male human ancestor Noah. All these are descendants of the Y chromosome E haplogroups, which is said to be the original male genome originated in areas within Eastern Africa. Also, the archaeological and paleontological evidence point to Eastern Africa as the likely area of early evolution of modern humans. This E haplogroup would be known today as the first human, aka Adam. Remember Africa, anciently known as Alkebulan, which is another word for Eden and east thereof, is where the Garden of Eden was located as said in Genesis 2. 8. And the Most High Yah planted a garden eastward in Eden, and there he put the man whom he had formed. These are areas around eastern Congo, Uganda, Tanzania, and Kenya. Genetic studies also indicate that populations from the region often contain, but not exclusively, representatives of the more basal clades of mitochondrial and Y chromosome phylogenies. Regardless of the importance of DNA in tracing the ancestries and genetic similarities, it is honest to say DNA is often corrupted by the people controlling this world, hence the case of the Lemba, a Bantu tribe being recently claimed as sharing the same bloodline with the fake Caucasian Jewish community in Middle East. This therefore proves that despite most of these theories aligning with our culture and oral history, the DNA alone. Of much importance, it is not enough to prove the race or tribe of ancient Israelites, nor does it quality one to be from Bantu lineage, as there's no ancient Israelite subject core, to confirm this claim. But it is interestingly important to note that Bantu are the only people on the face of the earth that can prove their Israelite identity, both historically, traditionally, linguistically, and even biblically, to be the descendants of the ancient biblical Israelites. It's the only difference between Bantu languages and so-called Paleo, ancient. Hebrew is in writing because through colonialism, the modern Bantu was forced to write his language in Roman writing. But despite all these, you can still find people in the middle of Congo who can still write Paleo-Hebrew without learning the modern Hebrew recently invented to push the Jewish agenda. You have to be a conscious Bantu to understand this. The ancestry DNA test people are taking will most likely lead one back to where their earliest ancestor was captured from, because that's the only European recorded information, and not necessarily indicating the race or one's actual homeland. That's why they often request for a family tree information, because the ancestry DNA alone cannot provide 100% accurate results. For instance, while biological siblings have the same family tree, their genetic code might be different in at least one of the areas looked at in a given test. Even siblings only share about 50% of the same DNA. This applies even to twins. But if one is that curious and trusts these pharmaceutical companies, then he's free to take the DNA test. But if you are Bantu, deep down, you know. In regards to current ancestry DNA tests being conducted on our people, one has to think and ask themselves, why would the white man who lied to us about who we are, used all kinds of mechanisms and techniques to destroy us and program us to forget who we are today? Be willing to tell us the truth. It's like what Miriam Makeba said. You can't expect people who enslaved you to tell the truth about you. They will always tell lies, and they need to do so to justify their evil. The Bible also tells us that the enemy only comes to steal, kill, and destroy. And I have learned from scriptures that the only time the devil uses half-truth is to manipulate the people and only for his own good. Prophetically, these are the years of Exodus, but there's an ongoing agenda to continue deceiving our people with the so-called year of return backed up by Western imperialists and their DNA business. The truth is that it's not in the slave master's interest for Bantu people in the diaspora to fully know who they are, because once they do, no one will stop them. That's why they will always use half-truth to continue deceiving our people, just like Leopold II, King of Belgium, told his missionaries sent to Congo to only use the truth to benefit themselves. The devil can only tell you the truth when it's convenient for me. They'd rather send Bantus in the diaspora to other African countries rather than directing them where they belong. That's why, despite evidence of Bantu presence in both North and South America, the descendants of slaves today are being regrouped in only two modern countries, Nigeria and Ghana, countries with currently almost no Bantu descendants, and countries which were highly historically involved in the enslaving of Bantu during the transatlantic slavery and even the so-called modern Libyan slavery. Don't be deceived, yes, Bantu lived in West Africa. A small minority still live there, mainly in Cameroon and Gabon. A large percentage of Shemites and Hebrews live all around the West African area. But the largest population of the Bantu Israelites is in sub-Saharan Africa, below the equator, beyond the rivers of Kush, from Cameroon and Congo in the west to southern Africa, from Kenya and Tanzania in the east to Namibia. And statistics show that the chances for an African American or any descendants of Bantu in diaspora to be treated fairly in these countries below the equator is almost 9 out of 10, because these people are traditionally welcoming, and the strong resentment that the people stolen from Africa were predominantly of Bantu stock, and most diaspora who have settled in these lands below the Sahara can testify about the difference with Ghana and Nigeria. They all say they feel more like home, because they are home. It is said that after the out-of-Egypt migration, many Bantu migrated to what is today known as sub-Saharan Africa. From there they divided into different routes, central, east, and southern thereof. Those who were in west lived up there until the beginning of transatlantic slavery, when massively started migrating further south, sub-Saharan Africa. Most fleeing slavery among a few other reasons, many of them captured and taken to the four corners of the world, and the remains could not continue migrating due to Western colonial borders structured during the Congo-Berlin Conference in 1884. I understand that everyone wants to be associated with Bantu today in order to be drafted in, but unfortunately, the truth doesn't submit to emotions. And yes, there are still a small minority of Bantu in the interior of West Africa to this day. They are as far as Sao Tome, Cape Verde, all the way to Mauritania. But as I said, they are only a minority, and most of them are still oppressed or living the worst condition due to segregation. The Bantu migration is Israelites' migration into Africa. It is labeled such because it happened the same time biblical Israelites are said to have left Egypt and using the same exact route. All Bantu came into sub-Saharan Africa during the Bantu Exodus, but many Bantu didn't go through the West African line as the Caucasian previously claimed. They expanded into different territories of their new homeland. They all shared an oral account of coming through the East African line, crossing the Nile River, and all said to have been arriving in sub-Saharan Africa between 1500 and 1000 BCE, after the arrival in their new settlement. Other causes, such as enslavement among many, resulted in many of them being further scattered, first from the Assyrians, then the Babylonians, then the Arabs, then the Europeans. This was also one of the major factors why there was no much development. Today, many Bantu don't even know that they are the biblical Israelites. They practice their culture, which is biblical, and have no idea why. Some tribes in Western Africa today are called semi-Bantu for a reason. A few others in Cameroon are called Proto-Bantu because they are earlier Bantu tribes who migrated into the western part of Africa from ancient Egypt, including all of modern-day Middle East. The semi-Bantu are Bantus significantly admixed with non-Bantu Africans, nations. Shocking that the Bantu in the Americas who's been disconnected from their own people and roots for centuries and taken far away from home somehow still practice Bantu spirituality, culture, and even languages. Yes, they mix it up with other things, but it still is purely Bantu, unlike some tribes in Africa claiming to be Bantu, yet have no connections whatsoever while they live just next door. While the Bantu might have adopted some Egyptian, Assyrian, Phoenician, Latin, Greek, etc. words and habits because we dwelled in those lands at some point in time, this doesn't chance the fact that Bantu are the only people on earth whose culture and linguistics are everything that's written in the Bible. No one else can say this with proof. Our ways of life from birth, naming, at age 12 to age 30, from marriage practices to laws, from old age to death. We are the people of the book. After a thorough examination and research, going through books after books on this matter, it is safe to say that unlike the Nilotes, also known as the Nilo-Hamites or Nilo-Saharan, who are clearly descendants of Ham, the Niger-Congo family is the progenitor of the descendants of Shem. But let's break it down further. All the indigenous population of the entire world were originally black. It is safe to say that both Ham, Shem, and Japheth were black. Ham had 4 sons, Cush, Phut, Mizraim, and Canaan. The original Cushites are the dark-skinned population predominantly found in East Africa today. The Nilotic family is divided into 2 branches. The darker and tall modern-day Sudanic tribes are the descendants of Cush, predominantly the Luos, the Dinka, the Nuer, the Mandika, and others, the descendants of the great Nimrod. These are the same people whom Isaiah 18 warned. A people tall and smooth-skinned, a people feared far and wide, an aggressive nation of strange speech, whose land is divided by rivers, dwelling along the rivers of Cush. And the second branch is the East African Nilotes, predominantly the Tutsis, Maasai, Oromo, Turkana, and many other relatives, also originally dark-skinned Nilotic tribes. These are original Egyptians' descendants of Mizraim, predominantly found in Eastern Africa, with a small minority in West Africa. The original Phutites are still the dark-skinned people in Northern Africa, an exception of Berbers and Tuareg. These include some original dark-skinned tribes of Libya, Tunisia, Morocco, Mauritania, Algeria, and Ethiopia. There's also a large portion of land in Somalia called Puntland, Punt or Put. Then the original Canaanites are predominantly living together with Bantu, the so-called indigenous population of sub-Saharan Africa, so-called Pygmies. The Pygmies are divided into few groups, the Twa, the Khoi, and the Khoisan, etc. Japheth had many sons. Him and his descendants were all originally black people just like the original. Michael Massafilm. Watch Part 2.